Hi, this is Chatboxing. I'm Sean. It's a post-fight video for Joseph Parker against Cojanu. I can't remember his first name now. Romanian bloke. Not a particularly impressive performance from Joseph Parker, to be honest. He won every round, pretty much. Well, he probably did win literally every round. So that's good, I suppose, in itself. But after what we saw last weekend from Anthony Joshua and Vladimir Klitschko, I think people were expecting a more impressive performance from Joseph Parker and for him to make more of a statement than he really did here. Now, the other guy was, I believe, a sparring partner of his on quite a few occasions. It had that kind of feel about it to the fight. He came in on short notice because obviously Hughie Fury pulled out. So he was a bit overweight. He was big, this bloke, and he was kind of awkward. But he wasn't really with that much ambition. He had that. He looked like he had a kind of sparring partner mentality. Like he was doing enough to make Joseph Parker have to work a bit, but not really offering much to actually try and win the fight himself. He was mainly just kind of taking punches and then pulling silly faces more than anything else. He was walking Parker down at times, and he was, landing a few punches here and there, but he was very, very slow. Now, as I say, he come in on short notice, a bit overweight. So, a lot of these punches that Joseph Parker was getting caught with, is a concern, really, because the speed they were coming at and then the predictability of them, for him to be getting caught with punches like that, it's not a good sign. Now, possibly he just got a bit complacent. He went in there, he wasn't really that motivated for it. He presumably would have been a lot more motivated for the Hughie Fury fight. He would have prepared properly for that fight. It would have been a much bigger fight, and it's kind of a bit of an anticlimax. But as they were saying, this potentially could be his last fight in New Zealand for a while. He's been representing New Zealand pretty well. He's well supported over there. He was like the first heavyweight champion from New Zealand, so he's quite proud of that, and so he should be. And he has quite a good, good fan base and a good thing going on over there, really. So it's quite disappointing, really, that he didn't go out with a better bang than that. I mean, it's not to say that he's never going to fight in New Zealand again, obviously, but he's going to be going to fight in America, in the UK, if he's wanting to, fight the top people in the division and unify. So, he should have been, at least had some degree of motivation. But I think there was too much familiarity between the two, and he was kind of going through the motions. I mean, as I say, he was winning every round. So maybe he just thought, well, I don't really need to step on the gas any more than I am doing. One thing that I noticed, one difference between him and Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder as well, is he just doesn't really seem to have that power that they have. I mean, he's smaller, he's quick on his feet, got very fast hands, but quite often he was landing good combinations on Cojanu, hit body, head, mixing them up, and we didn't really put a dent in him once. I mean, nothing. It didn't hurt him at all in that fight. Now, Cojanu, as I say, he's big. He looked pretty tough, to be fair, and he had quite a tight guard. And also Parker was quite predictable, especially to him, because he's obviously been in the ring with him a lot. So maybe that had something to do with it. There weren't really that many openings, because he wasn't particularly ambitious himself. So quite a lot of the punches maybe he was catching on the gloves, but still Parker did catch him with a few shots, and he didn't really put a dent in him. Now you got to think, if that was Anthony Joshua landing those kind of combinations, then there's no way that would have been going 12 rounds. So that's one thing that's quite a disadvantage that Joseph Parker has over the likes of Joshua and Wilder, especially considering he doesn't have particularly long reach. Now, he does box quite well from range. He's got a good jab, he's got very fast hands, and he's got quick feet. The problem is, he doesn't, that disadvantage he has in reach, he has to get in and fight close. And when he does that, he leaves himself open quite a lot. So against someone like Joshua, I could see him getting caught with a big uppercut, or hooks, especially the uppercut. I could see him getting caught with that. And the one that hit Vladimir Klitschko, I mean, nearly broke his neck. So, based on what I've seen, I would definitely think he would be very, very much the underdog going into a fight with Anthony Joshua. He's still young. I mean, he's a champion, but he's only had 22 fights, so he's come along a lot quicker than possibly they would have planned. So he's now in a position where he's like at the top of the heavyweight division, but I don't think he's really on the level of like Joshua, Wilder, and Fury. I do think he has potential. He's got good attributes, but I do think that definitely against Anthony Joshua, he's going to be very unlikely, in my opinion, that he's going to win that. Not to say that he couldn't beat him on points. One thing about fucking Joseph Parker, third time lucky, he has very quick hands, and he can score. I mean, he can score a lot of points and win rounds, like he did in this, and he won basically every round. And he can box quite cleverly. So if he was going to beat Anthony Joshua, I don't really see him knocking him out. I don't think it's possible, but I don't think he's really got the power to do it. And also, I think it would be unwise of him to stay too long in there trading like with those sort of combinations. Like he could hit a few of them and then get out of there. I don't think he wants to be hanging around to get hit with those big punches from Joshua. In terms of Deontay Wilder, well, that's a fight that's probably most likely to happen next. Now, I said before this that I would put my money on Deontay Wilder, and I would definitely put my money on Deontay Wilder, after seeing that. And the main reason is because he got caught with quite a few right hands in that fight against someone who's very slow, very predictable. Luckily, didn't really have much power, and he got kind of pushed onto the ropes quite a lot. Now, as I say, this is someone who's kind of familiar with him, who kind of knows what he's going to do. And maybe Joseph Parker got quite complacent because he knew that there was nothing major coming back from this bloke. So if he was fighting someone like Wilder, you'd have to think he'd be a lot sharper, a lot more switched on, and there'd be a lot. You'd hope that he'd have his head there ready to just get it out of the way. Not just there coming in boom and just leaving it there, hanging his chin out there like he did with this guy. You'd think that against someone like Wilder, he'd be very, very switched on. So that head just there, like ready, set, go, and it's out of the way. That's what you would hope to see from him. Now, he's had some quite good experience along the way in his last couple of fights. This fight, he didn't really seem to adapt. Maybe you can argue he didn't need to, because the opponent that he was fighting wasn't really any threat, and what he was doing was successful in terms of winning the match, the boxing match, but he wasn't really putting a stamp on the division, and he didn't really, he's not going to be making a name for himself at the top level with a performance like that. So his next fight against Deontay Wilder, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's pretty interesting so far. Joseph Parker, the 2 times that he's had to step up, he's sort of upped his game. Against Andy Ruiz, he did that. He fought well for the world title. I think he won that fight quite convincingly. A lot of people, for some reason, think he didn't. I do. Carlos Takam, I think he did pretty well in that. I think Takam potentially let him off the hook a little bit, but that was a good learning experience for him. So, he's had 2 step up, and he's so far passed with flying colours. So you would hope that against Deontay Wilder, he would do that again. But for me, I think potentially because Deontay Wilder has quite long arms, and yeah, he is developing a bit of an inside game. He's getting better at it, but still, he doesn't have a particularly good inside fighting game. Deontay Wilder, yeah, he's getting better, but I would think Joseph Parker, if he could learn to protect himself when he's in close, he could potentially catch Wilder quite well when he's in there. If he can somehow manage to get inside, because Deontay Wilder's another one, a bit like Joseph Parker. When he starts throwing these big bombs, it's no secret that his fundamentals are not very good, and he's got his chin up in the air. He's not even looking half the time. He really is going pretty crazy. So I could see him catching Deontay Wilder in a very vulnerable position. Problem is, he doesn't look to be like a massively big puncher. I mean, he can punch reasonably well, but Deontay Wilder hasn't shown me that he's particularly vulnerable. I mean, he may not be like invincible. I mean, obviously anyone can be knocked out, but he doesn't look like you're just going to hit him a couple of times and he's going to go down. He looks like reasonably tough. So Joseph Parker, I don't know, possibly. I can see it again. I can see him maybe beating him on points because he's got much quicker hands. The problem is that range that Wilder has and that right hand at some point, that if Cojanu was hitting him with those right hands, then I don't see how Deontay Wilder is not going to be able to land them. He's much quicker with them. He's got a much better range. He's quicker on his feet. They come from angles that you don't really expect. And he's obviously very aggressive, very ambitious, and he's starting to use his brain more, Wilder. I mean, he's got twice the amount of fights as Joseph Parker. Yeah, you can say, well, loads of them were against bums, etc. It doesn't matter. He's still been sharpening his tools for a lot longer. He's a lot more experienced than Parker. So, yeah, I would make him the big underdog going into that fight with Deontay Wilder. Not writing him off by any means, but I do think that he's got his work cut out against the other champions right now. But hopefully he'll prove me wrong. I mean, I do like Joseph Parker, and I do like his style. I like the fact that he's representing New Zealand very well, and he's wanting to go and challenge himself. He's not sort of hanging around trying to milk his belt. He wants to now really kind of get on the big stage and take on these challenges. So good luck to him. But as of right now, I'll be putting my money on Deontay Wilder if that fight gets made next. But yeah, let me know what you lot think, and thank you very much for watching.